some children were in the process of being evaluated, and that evaluation was delayed because of the school shutting down due to COVID. And so if that is your situation, and in the event your child was later found eligible for special education, then the ARD committee could consider compensatory services, because that would show that there was a loss of services that could have been provided as a result of the school closure. Some other key factors in thinking about compensatory services is thinking about that at-home learning. What was that like? And so you, as the parent, have the best information to provide. You know, what worked well for your child? What didn't work well? And so it's important that you have a voice to communicate what worked. The one response make me think about, you know, your daughter not wanting to sign on for Zoom meetings 8 times a day. To me, that's an indicator that didn't work very well. So be ready to talk about that, as well as you, because you have been in the trenches, as I like to say, in working with your child in this format. What ideas do you have, or what helped your child if you're going to continue to remain in this virtual world of learning? So that's an important for you as a parent to organize your thoughts and be ready to communicate that. Another piece of that is, you know, where are your child's current skills compared to their annual IEP goals? So knowing your child's IEP goals and what they were expected to have mastered by the end of the school year, and where they are. Are they close to mastery? Has there been some loss of skills? That is a critical component of discussion around compensatory services. And so since you've been home with your child along with their teacher, what evidence is there that they've been learning or not learning the skills that are in their IEP? And so if your child hasn't made that kind of progress that they usually would if school hadn't been closed, then that's an indicator that compensatory services should be considered. And so then yes, we determine, the ARD committee determines that your child qualifies and needs those compensatory services. The next thing you have to think of is what services and in what format. And you have to think carefully about how these should be added to your child's day. And so I know we all have high expectations for our child's learning. But going back to that word I saw, someone said balance. We have to find that balance of, we need to kind of catch them up on skills that they lost, but we also need to help keep them at a pace to keep moving forward. And so all that to say, it's been talked about, you know, it could have been that your child in this example missed 10 30-minute occupational therapy sessions. Well, that's a total of 300 minutes. Well, it might not be appropriate to, you know, add 300 minutes to your child's month or over 2 months. So the discussion is, how do we best make up this learning time loss without overburdening or overbearing your child and yourself as a parent? So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of being creative and thinking outside the box. You know, some schools are embedding the compensatory services within the school day. Some are doing some kind of after school. So I've heard of a variety of ways that schools are addressing the compensatory services. And that has to be an important part of the conversation. So here's a list of guiding questions, and I'm not going to read through each one, but I was thinking that these questions would be helpful for you as you prepare to navigate these type of conversations about compensatory services and even about virtual learning. I thought they're very pointed questions, you know, and questions for you to answer for yourself from your parents' view, as well as questions to ask your campus. on how your child was doing, what alternative methods of instruction was provided. Was the student able to access the instruction and services? There were many families who couldn't attend to online learning. How active was your child able to participate? So these are some good questions for you to ask. And I'm clicking to another slide so you can see the others. What percentage of the student's IEP required instruction and services did the student receive? You would know that as a parent. And if you wrote that down or kept track of that, that is valuable information to share with the ARD committee when you're making these decisions. So I wanted to share those with you. I got these guiding questions off of Texas Project First, which is one of my go-to family resource websites. And I have the link at the bottom of the slide that you can search for other information. But I thought they did a nice job of laying out these guiding questions. There's also this document that TEA put out that I put in the handout folder. And it's written for professionals as well as parents. And I wanted to share that with you so you could see the perspective from the Texas Education Agency, the guidance that they're providing around extended school year and compensatory services. There's a bulleted list of kind of qualifications and considerations that I think will be very helpful for you if you just need some support in knowing how to engage in these conversations. This is also another excellent webinar, and I listened to it, and I wanted to share it with you. I've included this on a slide. I included the slide deck from this presentation in your handouts, but Justin Porter is the Director of Special Education at the Texas Education Agency. And he did this session, Back to School, Special Education and the COVID-19 Outbreak with Justin Porter. And the information, some of the information that I shared about compensatory services that I'm going to talk about, contingency plans, I got from this webinar. But it is very well worth your time to hear from Dr. Porter as he shares what the agency is doing to provide guidance and support for students during the school closures and as school has picked up. So now let's move to contingency plans. I hope this is something you've heard about. If not, then it's a new vocabulary term for you, but what is a contingency plan? Oh, I'm starting to see faces. Okay, I'm gonna move my stuff over. Take a little pause real quick. Let me change my background so you don't just see my green screen. All right, well, I see some faces. Hello. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. See, now it's a distraction. Okay, so let's move along to contingency plans. Get my chat up here if anybody does any questions real quick. Let me move this around. Okay, so what is a contingency plan? Okay, it's something that's not required, but it is highly recommended by the TEA. The ARD committee develops it, and it's something you add to the existing IEP. And basically it's that plan, because there's been some back-to-back, we've got in-person instruction, then we have to move to virtual instruction. Then we go back to in-person, and then we might have to move to virtual instruction again. So I'm gonna ask, let's see. Let me get some,
okay,
let me see if I can mute. Let's see, Magali and Emily and Isaac, would y'all mind muting? Thank you. Okay. Okay. So what it is it's basically that plan that the ARD committee puts together, that if we have to shift back to virtual learning because we have to close the campus because of a COVID outbreak, then we already have a plan of what's going to be in place of how special education services are going to be provided in that virtual format. So it allows for that continued service if we have to do that pivot and shift again. So what that means is when face-to-face instruction resumes, then the contingency plan is no longer in effect. Services are provided as described in the IEP. But you put that plan in place so that if you're in-person instruction and you have
in-person,
hey Magali, do you mind? Okay. If you have to, schools close, virtual instruction has to resume, then you've got that contingency plan. And you, as a parent, are an integral part of that because it does look different in-person instruction versus that virtual instruction. So contingency plans were starting to be put in place last spring during the closure. And I can imagine many districts are continuing with these because there's still a mix of in-person, virtual, but then also having them in the event their campus has to close and they have to move to virtual instruction. So that is what a contingency plan is. A big question that has been asked frequently that I wanted to point out is there's been some concern from parents that if I accept this contingency plan, then does that mean I'm waiving my opportunity to request those compensatory services? And the answer is no. That is completely separate. Agreeing and accepting that contingency plan has nothing to do, it will not impact whether compensatory services are needed or will be provided for your child. So I wanted to share that because we've been asked that question frequently. That they were called contingency plans. I'm looking at the questions. Were these called continuity plans too? I've only heard them called as contingency plans. And that's the term that that TEA uses, but I could see where continuity might be the same thing as contingency. If it sounded like the way I described a contingency plan, then it could have just been the campus calling it something different along the same lines. So if you're curious to know what they look like, I have provided an example that TEA provided. Of course, your LEA doesn't have to use this example. This is just a guide, a model. But again, if you're coming up on an ARD meeting and this becomes a conversation piece, it's helpful for you to know what it's about, the purpose and what it looks like. And so I've shared an example. I've included the link where you can look at one more closely. All right, so synchronous and asynchronous instruction. I am actually going to show you a video, and I'm going to highlight in this video my coworker Claudia, and now you can see her. So she's going to wave or say hello. So you will see her featured on this video because as you heard in my introduction, for 4 years, I worked in the family engagement component at Region 20, and now Claudia is our family engagement consultant. So I'm happy she's here with us, and she did these videos, several videos, but I want to highlight the one on synchronous and asynchronous. I thought it would be more fun for you to watch a video than to hear me talk about it. So let's move along, but you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to stop share. I need to share my sound real quick. Let me get that going. And if you can't hear after I get it started, somebody just unmute and get my attention.
Hello, my name is Claudia Irene Vargas. I am the Family Engagement Consultant at the Education Service Center, Region 20. I am also a mother of 5 children. Like many of your children, my children will begin school this fall with virtual learning at home. In order to safely maximize the learning opportunity for all students this fall, schools will begin providing instruction with either in-person learning or virtual learning. Parents will have the choice to select the best option for their children, to send them to school for on-campus instruction or to keep them at home for remote instruction. To ensure that remote instruction is delivered as effectively as possible for all of our students, the Texas Education Agency has directed schools to offer remote learning via 2 methods of instruction, synchronous and asynchronous. Today, I will provide a brief overview of what this remote instruction might look like for your child, given the methods of instruction. It is not only important to understand what these terms mean, but also what they might look like for your child, given your specific circumstances, and most of all, knowing that this fall's instruction will not look like this spring's instructional support. Although we know you are your child's first teacher, with these two methods, it is not the expectation that you become your child's teacher. As a parent, your role is to help them access the instruction and to support their learning at home, just like you would by sending them physically to campus. While both synchronous and asynchronous are virtual learning environments, synchronous instruction requires that all participants be virtually present at the same time, while asynchronous does not require that all participants be present at the same time. Some examples provided by TEA of synchronous instruction include, but are not limited to, live interactive classes with students and teachers participating in real time, teacher-supported work time on video conference calls, and scheduled and timed online tests. The TEA also provides examples of asynchronous instruction, these being self-paced online courses with intermittent teacher instruction, pre-assigned work with formative assessments on a paper or in a learning management system, and watching pre-recorded videos of instruction with guided support. Rest assured that both delivery formats will cover the required curriculum. It is also important to know that attendance will be taken. When participating in synchronous instruction, teachers take and post attendance on a specific schedule, just as they would with on-campus attendance. Students who are not logged in at the teacher's documented official attendance time will be marked absent. When it comes to asynchronous instruction, attendance is taken differently. When participating via this method of instruction, students are marked as present if they are engaged. A student can be engaged if any of the following three occur: progress in the learning management system made that day, progress from teacher-student interactions made that day, and or turning in assignments that day. If you chose virtual learning, remote instruction for your child this fall, I hope you found this video helpful in understanding the methods of delivery and that it has provided you with some insight on what to expect. Join me in the next video where I will discuss the at-home learning environment and provide some tips on how to make the most of it. For more information on schedules and specifics to your child's virtual learning, please visit your district's website. Best wishes for a great school year.
Right. Thank you, Claudia. These are, let me tell you, I wanted to share that one as we're moving into this section, but I also want to share with you that she's done a series and they are available in English and Spanish, each one. So there's a parent-family engagement program overview that explains the Region 20's family engagement program, at-home learning, and then we are in this together. In that handout folder, I've given you, there's a one-page document that has the link for the English and the Spanish videos for you to watch on your own time. But I'd encourage you to take a listen and a watch. All right, so synchronous and asynchronous, definitely two new vocabulary words you need to add in your conversations. But basically, this is what I did to help me learn the difference. So synchronous is like network live TV. Okay, you watch it live. Synchronous, you have to watch it on the day, the time that it's showing. That is synchronous. Asynchronous is like Netflix on demand. You get to watch it on your own time, when you want, of course, in your pajamas if you want, comfy clothes. But that kind of had to help me understand the difference. And that's happening in our schools right now. And so I'm curious from this group, if you'll go back to the tab where you did the poll everywhere or on your phone, I'm curious to know who we have with us today. What type of remote learning is your child or your children participating in? Is it just synchronous, asynchronous? Is it a mix of both? Or is it none, that your child is back at school face-to-face? Or none of these, or some other kind of method? But I would love to see where you are, where your children are. I'll give you some seconds to enter the poll. Is everybody doing hybrid? So far we have 100% hybrid. That doesn't tell me how many has answered. Or if you're not able to do the poll, send me a chat. Okay, well, I'm just going to think that we have a mix. It's a hybrid. Your child is doing some synchronous live instruction, and then also doing like the recorded, pre-recorded, the asynchronous method. So thanks for sharing that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, there's been some pretty funny memes out there on social media, and I've seen in news articles. Yeah, when my own kids stayed home for virtual learning back in March, yes, as a mom, I could relate to this picture. You know, when people without kids say, aren't you just loving all this newfound free time? Oh my gosh, I've worked harder still, you know. And so we've seen some pretty funny memes that I personally, as a mom, feel like I have related to, I can relate to. You know, I love this one. Half a day into homeschool and my child has been suspended for stealing food from the cafeteria. I don't know about you, but my girls wanted to have a snack every 15 minutes, you know, and I found food wrappers in all kinds of places around my house. We definitely had to set some new rules in our house. You know, oh, I'm a horrible homeschool teacher. My child has been at recess since 9:30 in the morning. If you see me talking to myself this week, just mind your business. I'm just having my own parent-teacher conference. Yeah, I can relate to that too. And then yeah, me and my kids' daily Zoom meeting, trying to learn second grade math. Yes. Haven't you learned some new skills or learned some ways that teachers are teaching things differently than when we were in school? So I'm just sharing for a little chuckle because I bet all of us can relate to at least one of these as we have experienced that. So I want to share some tips, and I can imagine that you may have heard of all of these. People have shared. Ultimately, what's most important is do what is best for your child. Just speaking from a teacher, as a teacher, every child learns differently, needs different supports. It's no different from when they're learning at home. And as a mom, you have to do what is best for your child. I will tell you, just to share a little personal example, I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. My 8-year-old didn't have to worry about. Now my 6-year-old, she's just different from my 8-year-old. My 6-year-old, I was that one. She would have recess till 9:30, 10, 11. Sometimes I would have to wait till my lunch break to get her started on school. At first, I felt like I needed to be on that rigid schedule to keep her in a routine. And then I had to let that go because for her, that wasn't working for her and it wasn't working for me. So I had to do what was best for her, and really I had to do what was best for me too. So be flexible, be flexible. And this is really important. And I can imagine you are doing this, but I want to just remind you, mom, dad, grandma, allow that playtime, that alone time, that outlets for creativity. It's not all about logging on to Zoom all the time. They've got to have that built in. And the brain breaks and the movement. As an adult, it has been harder to sit in front of a computer and do Zoom. So when I think about our kids doing that, it exhausts me even more. So I know it's exhausting our kids even more. And we have to let them get away from the screen and have that break, that movement. There are some great resources out there that can provide some movement breaks, but you schedule that when your child needs it. This one is important too. As a teacher, this is happening in a classroom. When I was teaching, we did this all the time. I knew as a teacher, for my students, we had to chunk our learning. I had to avoid those long stretches of academic time. I had to chunk it. I had to break it up. We had to have movement. We had to have transitions. And your child is going to need that if they're doing their learning at home. and be okay with that. Allow that. As much as you can, reduce distractions. I know I had to do a lot to reduce distractions in my own home, and I know that's going to look differently for all of us. This is another thing. Create a cheat sheet or something where you keep all of your children's websites and logins. They were all over the place, can be all over the place. And so for your sanity, try to keep them in one place where you know where to find it, because that's something they have to access every day. And if they're doing multiple programs, it is very easy to get lost, or just bookmark them on the tablet or the computer. And then also make sure you know how to connect with your child's teacher. Not only know how to connect, but to actually connect on a regular basis and conference. Because you're not supposed to feel alone or do this alone. Your child's teacher is the guide, guiding that instruction. And again, I'm going to go back to doing what is best for your child. So those are my top tips to share. Behavior. Okay, this is a document that TEA put out. You have this in your handouts, so you can click on the links that they share. Because I can imagine, just because I know in my own home, there's been some outbursts of behavior where it's like, where is this coming from? That we've had to work through. And so I love these tips. And again, you may have heard these, but they're good reminders. They're good reminders for me as a mom who gets focused on certain things. And when things don't go the way that I think they should be going, it's like I lose everything that I know as an educator or as a behavior manager. So, you know, that positive reinforcement, even when mom, you feel stressed or out of control, our kids pick up on that. Positive reinforcement, trying to be calm. There's some strategies, like there's some little videos, like a link to replacement behavior video, share some good tips. You know, and so I want to just share this with you as a resource. This is not a behavior training, and I'm not a behavior expert. But as a mom, I can relate to these tips and find them useful. And they go on to share tips to plan for learning. So how you can help plan around your child's behavior, how to communicate with your child's teacher and the campus. And then setting your schedule in the home. Just some great tips there that I want to share. So I want to make sure I'm sharing resources. And so accommodations. I know that came up in the challenge. And I know that teachers have had to really pivot and change, think about, okay, this is how I accommodate when I'm face-to-face. What does that look like virtually? I know at the service center, our curriculum specialists have been providing a lot of support to our teachers around these remote accommodations. So Region 4 and the Inclusive Network, I found this resource, and I'm going to share one other. But what I liked about this, and this is written for teachers, but I wanted to share this with you because as a parent, when you're having discussions with the teacher around accommodations, like this one's broken up, you know, if the school sends home learning packets, or they're doing like a hybrid or face-to-face, or if it's, you know, the asynchronous. So they kind of broke it up into those three categories. And I pull out pre-teach concepts because the teachers are doing that in any of these modes. And so how might we go about providing accommodations? And so as a parent, this type of resource can help give you some ideas based on how you've seen your student respond and interact in the virtual learning, as well as it's helping teachers as they plan their instruction. And so some tips involve, if it's packet information, you know, either the teacher providing or you as a parent asking, okay, they have this assignment, but what is out there that can help them learn some pre information before they have to dive in and actually do an assignment for a grade. If it's a continual learning opportunity, you know, is there a video to watch that gives information about the concept or the skill with some check-in for understanding? You know, if it's the distance e-learning, if it's the the synchronous, if it's live instruction, it's the teacher having a breakout room or small group to do some pre-teaching of the concept before she would deliver to everybody in the group. So just wanted to pull out one that you can explore further, but I really love this next one. I'm going to click on the link and open it. This is from understood.org, which is another resource that I keep bookmarked. What I love about this is, wait till you see it. So they have this huge list. I'm just going to scroll down to show you, okay, of the accommodation. And then they break it up. What's a virtual learning alternative? So what might be an accommodation that could be provided that your child might need in that virtual reality that could help them? Then they also share different tools, like a Microsoft tool or the G Suite, the Google Suite. So this list is accommodations that change the way information is presented to students. And so let me go down here. This is accommodations that change the way the students complete assignments. So if maybe your child has an accommodation that they are able to give responses in different formats. Maybe it all doesn't have to be, you know, spoken or written, or maybe it's a mix of both. So they list, you know, some different ways that the teacher could allow the students to respond to their learning. Dictation, speech to text tool, you know, doing a video and uploading it, conferencing with the parent to see. So I just felt like understood.org did a really nice job of providing a lot of different examples in these different formats. So if you, as a parent, if you're struggling with that whole switch from face-to-face to virtual instruction, and sharing ideas, and you know what really works, and sharing that with the teacher and helping the teacher, share this with your child's teacher. It's a great tool. And then it goes down to accommodations that can help with scheduling, timing, organization. And then let's see, and that's the list. So again, the worry about accommodations, those two resources, as I explored and tried to look, I felt like they're great for teachers, but I also felt like as a parent, this could really help give you some ideas that you could voice, that you could share with your child's teacher to try and see if it's effective. If it doesn't work, try something else, but it gives you some other alternatives. All right, and so we have to be patient with your child, with the system, with teachers, and with yourself. Okay, we all know it's an unusual time. Nobody's perfect. There's gonna be mistakes. There's gonna be frustrations. There's gonna be meltdowns, technology challenges, questions that nobody has an answer to. We know tomorrow is a new day, but be patient. And I put that little word grace at the bottom because I've learned definitely I need grace and I need to be giving more grace. And that's something that I've definitely done, a lot more giving grace and a lot more receiving grace and asking people for grace. So remember that. I also want you to think about your teachers. So I've had many conversations with teachers, and they express feeling kind of like the way this picture describes. Our teachers are being challenged in ways they never have to. Plan for face-to-face instruction, plan for having students in the class while also delivering live through the computer, then also having to record lessons to make them available for students to access at other times. So they are being stretched. And I share that with you just to remember and give them grace. You know, many teachers only hear from parents when there are complaints or conflicts. And as parents, you could probably say the same thing. Well, I only hear from my child's teacher if my child is in trouble. I share that with teachers too. You know, so although teachers are paid for what they do, the best of them love your kids and try to do the best that they can. So just remember that, give them grace, be positive with them. They are learning new things as well. I don't have the opportunity in this platform to do breakout rooms, but I would love to just have some network support, because part of this is learning from others. So if you're comfortable, I would love for you to show your pretty face and unmute yourself. But this is what I would love you to introduce yourself. And I want you to share one tip that's helped you manage challenges as it relates to the remote learning. And then if you have a tip, what's a tip that's helped your children be successful? And then if there are any questions that you still have, share that as well. But if you're comfortable, please, I would love to have this be for about maybe 4 or 5 minutes, kind of some supporting each other and networking and getting ideas from each other. And I'm real good at wait time. And Claudia's raising her hand. She has 5 kids, so I bet she has lots of tips to share. Feel free to unmute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Vargas. As you saw in that video where I wore my hair straight for, I hardly ever wear it straight. I was in a session with Magali last week, and she's like, well, you have straight hair. Anyway, so Claudia Vargas, I have 5 children, like she mentioned, and my oldest is 12 years old, and she has Down syndrome. My second 10-year-old has ADHD, and so it's been different at home. My 6-year-old is in kinder. She just turned 6 this week. That was fun. So I can relate to what you're saying about your 6-year-old, Kimberly. And then I have soon to be 3-year-olds, and they just got their FIEE and will be starting school soon for speech, for having speech impairment. So yeah, it's been very busy, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do another 2 kids remote learning. No, I want them to go. So we'll see how that goes. Nonetheless, I just wanted to say hello, and definitely that one tip that has helped me manage was, and you spoke to it quite well, is giving myself some grace too, and understanding, okay, tomorrow's another day, because we do have those days where we're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then just take a deep breath, and you know what? Well, Lydia doesn't want to get on again at 3:10 for her 8th period class. It's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. We'll try it again tomorrow, you know? So yeah, just wanted to share that. Oh, and visuals, the schedules have really helped. Having like visuals, and she actually moves like a little clip to know that, hey, it's time to move on to the next class. And even with my child in kinder too, just a picture of things that helps them move along. So, thanks. Letting me share.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? I know we have some good tips.
I unfortunately don't have any kids, but after just organizing just a little bit of this, I can only imagine what teachers across America are feeling like. So we're all learning new tips and skills and how to navigate the world a lot more virtually. So I think everyone's become a lot more patient and understanding of everyone, and knowing that everyone also has a life behind them that's happening behind them as well. So
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, I think I'm an educator, and so just being flexible with everything that's going on is key, and making visuals virtual. I've spent a lot of time taking everything that I've printed and laminated, and now uploading it into, not uploading it, I have to recreate it into a Google slide to be able to share virtually. But yeah, visuals are very important.
Yeah, wow. Well, thank you for doing that for your students, because I know that is helping to make a difference. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. All right, so I want to close out with resources, because that's part of what Accessibility Fest is all about, is sharing resources. That's also part of my job at Region 20 as a liaison, is to help connect resources. So I want to highlight the Special Education Parent Resources webpage at Region 20. The link is at the bottom. I would encourage you to sign up for the listserv. Claudia sends out regular parent perusals that shares training information, the parent trainings and webinars that she hosts at Region 20. She sends community events and resources, so it's a great resource for you. Her contact information is also on this slide as well as on the web pages. You'll also see up here that the Special Education Department at Region 20 takes parent calls every day. So if you have a question, a special ed question, or sometimes we get calls from parents and they don't feel like the school is doing something. We don't serve in that role as an advocate where we attend our meetings or get in the middle of that process. But we will help with giving you correct answers to your questions, and we can help make a connection to you with that special ed director to help you take the next steps with whatever you're experiencing. So just know you call that number, you'll be connected to the staff member that has calls that day. Also, there's so many other resources. You can go to the Parent Resources home. There's a plethora of topics full of parent family resources. So I want to highlight that. I also want to highlight the resources that TEA has. I will tell you, and working at the Service Center for 11 years, I have really seen the agency kind of step up and provide a whole lot more resources for parents and families, which has been awesome. And so specifically for parents for having a child in special education, they have a list of general resources. The learning at home resources are those academic type resources. It's a great list. And then they have behavior resources. This is a resource that recently came out about resolving special education issues with your child's school. And it's really a guide for you to know who to go to when you're having a concern. Who should you talk to first? Who can provide information on what? So the teachers, it lists what the teachers can provide, what the principal can provide, what the evaluation person can provide. And it gives you some steps. If you're feeling like your child's IEP is not being implemented, or you have concerns about something, it gives you some tips, some examples of how do you take that first step to resolve the issue, because you want what's best for your child in that. The second page, this document is in your handouts, but the second page lists contacts for every service center. So we are Region 20. Claudia is the contact for Region 20, and Magali Diaz is the contact for Partners Resource Network. She's listening, she's on here. She's just not showing her face, which is okay. But you have the contact information there. So that's important to know too. All of us are here to help answer your questions and give you information that you need to help overcome any challenges that you're facing. There have been quite a bit of short social stories and different stories to help your kids understand COVID. Here is one that I found that I wanted to share. And then I wanted to share all of the presentation resources that I pulled information from, because each one of these have resources for you as a parent. So that concludes, and look, right at 12, that concludes this